The world of the Paleolithic was a place where survival shaped every breath. Icy winds swept across vast plains where mammoths and bison roamed, and fragile shelters of hide and bone barely kept out the cold. At night, flickers of firelight cast long shadows, reminding families that predators lingered just beyond the dark. In this unforgiving landscape, no one could afford to be idle. Women gathered plants, cared for children, prepared food, and sometimes joined the hunt. Their labor wasn't secondary, it was lifeblood. Every role mattered, every hand essential, as tribes fought together to endure a world carved by survival for generations. The story of the Stone Age has been told as a tale of men with spears and women by the fireside. Popular culture painted a world where gender lines were sharp and unchanging, where men hunted and women watched. But this image, born from early anthropology and reinforced in movies and textbooks, is only half the truth. Recent discoveries suggest women shaped far more than the half they crafted tools, gathered knowledge, and even joined the hunt. Were they hidden leaders of survival, underestimated in humanity's oldest story? Beneath layers of ash, time left its marked footprints etched into hardened earth, showing not only men but women moving with hunting bands. In burial grounds, archaeologists unearthed skeletons of women laid to rest with spears, knives, and ochre pigments, signs of both warfare and ritual. On cave walls, handprints once thought to belong to men now reveal slender fingers, evidence of female artists shaping the first symbols of humanity. Each discovery peels back the myth of passivity, placing women where they truly stood, visible, skilled, and vital to the story of human survival. In the glow of firelight, the cave comes alive with movement. Women grind seeds into coarse meal, carve bone into tools, paint symbols onto the walls, and calm restless children. Yet their work does not end there. Around the flames, they speak of hunts to come, of rituals to honor the spirits, of choices that would shape the group's survival. The fire does not confine them to the domestic, it reveals them as strategists, artists, and leaders at the heart of their people's story. As the fire fades and the echoes of the hunt grow quiet, a larger truth emerges. Women were not silent figures on the edges of survival, they were at its center. In food, in art, in knowledge, in every heartbeat of daily life. Their presence shaped the course of humanity. And this is only the beginning of their story. Picture the rhythm of daily survival. While hunters set out with spears toward uncertain horizons, the tribe's true security often rested in the steady hands of women. They knew the land like a map written in memory, where roots hid beneath the soil, which berries ripened in shade, which seeds could be ground into flour. Their baskets returned heavy, not with spectacle, but with life itself. These quiet harvests supplied nearly 70% of the tribe's food, feeding children, elders, and warriors alike. By the riverbank, beneath trees, across plains, they gathered not just plants, but the future, becoming the unbroken lifeline of survival. In the Stone Age, food was not the only gift drawn from the earth. Women carried another kind of wisdom and understanding of plants that went far beyond nourishment. They learned through generations of trial and memory, which leaves closed wounds, which roots eased pain, which flowers could quiet a fever. Archaeologists have uncovered Neanderthal remains with traces of yarrow and chamomile, proof that healing knowledge ran deep into our prehistoric past. Around the fire, one could imagine a woman grinding roots into a bitter paste, or steeping herbs into a steaming brew for the sick. In those fragile moments, her hands guarded life itself. She was not only a gatherer, but a healer and anchor between survival and the sacred. Knowledge in the Stone Age was not etched in stone tablets or recorded in scrolls. It was carried in voices, gestures, and demonstrations. Women became the keepers of this living library, passing on survival skills through patient teaching. A child would crouch beside her mother, learning which berries to pick and which to avoid. Tiny hands would fumble with fibers until they twisted into ropes, or watch intently as sparks leapt into flame under careful guidance. These lessons were not only about food or fire, they were about identity, belonging, and memory. Around the fire, songs and stories wove meaning into daily life, tying generations together. Women's teaching ensured that knowledge did not die with one, but lived on in all. Power in the Stone Age was not always shouted, nor carried on the tip of a spear. Often, it was woven into the quiet certainty of knowledge that women held and shared. As providers, healers, and teachers, they became trusted voices in the most critical moments of survival. Picture a tribe gathered in tense debate, the question looming, should they stay or should they move? It was often the women, with their memory of where plants grew, when rivers swelled, and which paths led to danger, who tipped the balance. Their influence was not formal, nor wrapped in titles, but it was undeniable. They shaped decisions with foresight rather than force, anchoring their communities with wisdom. In this silent power lay the beginnings of leadership and authority born from trust, and a resilience that would carry humanity forward. In a frozen moment of prehistory, footprints press into volcanic ash, evidence of a group moving together on the hunt. Among them are not only men, but women, their strides steady, their purpose clear. These tracks are more than marks in the earth. They are echoes of a truth long ignored. Across the world, burials reveal the same story. In Peru, 9,000 years ago, women were laid to rest with spear points and hunting tools, honored as hunters in their own right. The myth of strict division shatters here. Instead, the evidence speaks of shared struggle, shared danger, and shared respect. Women did not follow behind the hunters. They walked beside them. These traces in the earth remind us that survival was never the work of one gender alone. It was a collective story written in every footprint. The tall grass bends in the wind as a hunting party spreads wide across the plain. Every step is measured, every breath controlled. This is not the picture of men alone in pursuit. Women move with them, silent and steady, their eyes fixed on the prey. In these hunts, numbers mattered, agility mattered. The ability to drive animals toward traps or wear them down across endless distances was what brought food to the fire. Picture the chase stretching for hours, the sun beating down as bodies pressed forward. Women, trained in endurance, kept pace with the men, spears gripped tight, waiting for the moment to strike. Some flushed game from hiding places, Others set snares or closed in during the final sprint. These were not side roles, but essential ones. The kill, when it came, was a triumph of unity. Each hand, each voice, each heartbeat contributed to survival. The hunt was never the story of men alone. It was a shared struggle, a choreography of skill and trust. In the silence of the grass, women's steps were as vital as any spear thrust, weaving them firmly into the fabric of survival. The air is thick with tension as the prey turns, wild eyes flashing in panic and rage. A boar bursts from cover, tusks lowered, tearing the ground as it charges. In that heartbeat, there is no room for hesitation. Men and women alike grip their spears, planting their feet, bracing for impact. The line holds. The world narrows to the thud of hooves, the sharp cry of hunters, and the courage needed to stand firm. It is here, at the spear's edge, that bravery is tested. The strike must be precise, the coordination flawless. Women do not stand behind the men, they stand beside them. Their movements just as steady, their shouts just as fierce. These hunts demanded more than muscle. They required trust, timing, and the willingness to risk everything for the survival of the tribe. When the animal falls, it is not only a victory of strength but of unity. And in that unity, women carve their place as equals. Their courage in moments of peril did more than feed the fire, it reshaped respect, weaving them into the very definition of what it meant to be a warrior, a protector, a leader in the harsh world of the Stone Age. In the shifting shadows of the Stone Age, women stood not only as gatherers or hunters, but as defenders of their people. The same hands that steadied a spear against a charging beast could raise it against predators lurking at night or rivals pressing too close to their territory. Their skill in tracking, their patience in waiting, and their unflinching accuracy became shields for their children and companions. Such acts erased the idea of weakness tied to gender. What remained was a vision of survival rooted in unity, where every voice and every arm held weight. Communities endured because courage was shared. Women as hunters and warriors were not rare exceptions, they were the foundation of resilience, guardians of survival, and protectors of the tribe itself. On the cold stone of ancient caves, human hands still reach across millennia, pressed in red and black pigments. The prints reveal shapes both broad and slender, many belonging to women. These were not idle smudges, but declarations, signatures left upon the walls of time. Around them, carved figures and the iconic Venus statues spoke of fertility, birth, and life's fragile continuity. In these echoes, women emerge not only as survivors, but as creators of meaning, transforming dark shelters into sacred spaces. Through art, they carried memory into stone, laying the foundation for their role as spiritual guides of early humanity. Beneath the flicker of firelight, the walls of caves became canvases. Modern analysis suggests that nearly 3/4 of ancient hand stencils belonged to women, revealing their central role in shaping humanity's first symbolic language. Across rough stone, they painted hunts, animals, and swirling designs, each mark a bridge between survival and memory. Picture them guiding children, pointing to painted bison as lessons of endurance. or tracing patterns that preserved stories across generations. These women were not passive witnesses, but storytellers, artists, and memory keepers. Their work bound communities together, giving tribes a shared identity that outlasted fleeting seasons. Through creativity, they carried authority, shaping not only how people lived, but how they understood themselves. As the Stone Age world pulsed with both danger and wonder, moments of transition, birth, healing, and death called for steady hands and deep knowledge. Women often stood at the center of these thresholds, their understanding of herbs, blood, and renewal granting them spiritual authority. Archaeological traces suggest female shamans who guided tribes through ceremony, their bodies marked with ochre, their necklaces rattling with bone and bead. In the glow of fire or beneath open skies, chants rose as women called upon spirits, honored ancestors, or blessed hunters before the chase. These rituals were not mere gestures. They shaped decisions, bound morality, and wove belief into survival. Through ceremony, women became guardians of identity itself, blending the sacred with daily endurance. The story of early humanity does not end at the hunt. Within the caves, under the glow of firelight, another kind of strength took form. Women painted walls with visions of animals and spirits, carved figures that honored fertility and continuity, and guided ceremonies that bound people together. These acts were not mere decoration. They were systems of meaning, carried from one generation to the next, shaping memory itself. While hunting filled stomachs, creativity filled hearts with identity and belonging. Through art and ritual, women forged the first myths and symbols, the very seeds of culture. Their authority reached beyond survival, touching imagination, belief, and purpose. In this light, their influence became lasting power, echoing long after spears were set aside and fires burned low, preserving the soul of the tribe in the shadows of caves and in the shapes of carved stone. Women gave humanity its first sense of self. The Venus figurines, the handprints, the whispered ceremonies, these were not fragments of survival, but foundations of identity. They transformed daily struggle into lasting story, turning survival into meaning. Every painted wall carried memory, every ritual bound people together in belief. The Stone Age was not only tools, and hence it was symbols and sacred ties woven by women. Their legacy endures, echoing across millennia, reminding us that the human spirit has always been their creation. As the Ice Age loosened its grip, the world transformed. Glaciers retreated, forests thickened, and rivers carved fertile valleys where tribes could linger. In this new abundance, women already skilled in gathering seeds and roots made an observation that would alter human destiny. Grains left near hearths or along riverbanks began to sprout. What began as quiet curiosity soon became deliberate practice. With each season, knowledge grew, until survival no longer relied solely on the hunt. Agriculture was born not from sudden invention, but from countless experiments by steady hands. The shift from wandering bands to rooted villages began here. Homes, harvests, and entire communities took shape around these first gardens. From survival came civilization, seeded by the wisdom of those who once bent low to gather. As villages emerged from the soil of the New World, The skills women had carried through the Stone Age became the framework of society. Their knowledge of plants, mapped across valleys and seasons, now guided the sowing of fields. As healers, they safeguarded remedies for sickness. As teachers, they preserved memory through each generation. As artists and ritual leaders, they bound people in shared stories. Farming did not erase these roles, it deepened them. Women selected seeds, stored harvests, and guarded food against spoilage. Their hands steadied through each cycle of uncertainty. Their labor and wisdom kept fragile settlements from unraveling under famine, illness, or loss. The echo of this influence survived in myths of agricultural goddesses, symbols of fertility and life, reminders that the roots of civilization rested upon the legacy of its first mothers. The rhythm of life shifted as agriculture deepened its hold. Fields stretched wider, harvests grew larger, and with surplus came property. Property, in turn, carved new lines of power. Where once survival had bound men and women in equal struggle, settled life began to tilt the scales. Men, as defenders of fields and wielders of the plough, claimed authority in ways the hunt never had. Women's skills, still essential in food, healing, and teaching, slipped from sight. Hidden beneath the new order, respect that had echoed in caves and rituals slowly faded, replaced by rules that confined rather than honored. A paradox emerged. The very hands that seeded civilization were now pushed to its margins. In this silence, history turned, dimming voices that had once guided humanity's first steps. The Stone Age does not vanish as a forgotten age of stone and fire. It lingers as a mirror, reflecting what humanity once cherished. Before thrones and armies, before kingdoms and laws, women stood as gatherers of food, healers of wounds, artists who painted memory, and guardians of life itself. Their presence was not marginal, it was the axis around which survival turned. The handprints pressed on cave walls, the Venus figurines carved in stone, the footprints etched in ancient ash all whisper the same truth. Women shaped the destiny of humankind. They were not shadows at the edge of history, but voices that carried civilization's first songs. The echoes of the first mothers still linger in the crops that grow, the medicines that heal, and the stories that shape our lives. Their legacy reminds us that survival was never the triumph of one gender, but the strength of cooperation and resilience. The handprints on cave walls and figurines carved in stone are not silent relics. They are voices carried across time, urging us to remember that progress has always been built by women and men together.